Excellent. We are now officially recording this meeting of Digital and Transmedia Producing an Age of Pandemic peer exchange session. Woohoo! We are in our 9th session. I'm going to pull up our communication agreement, so I'm very quickly sharing the screen, hitting share on the screen. There's our beautiful meeting notes. And if I had actually been doing what we decided to do together, I would have just had these sitting here passively for the first 5 minutes of our entry. So I wanted to use our time well. So I'm going to ask us to do the same awesome practice we did last week, where I'm going to attempt, with the support of other folks here in the space, to keep us at, like 30 seconds a minute for our introductions. And then at around that time, we'll just put our hands up so the person will know softly, it is time to wrap up. And in our introduction, we're asking, who are you? Where are you coming from? Land acknowledgement, access needs, if any, and something awesome you discovered this week, or something challenging you discovered this week. I will model to begin, and I'm going to take us off the screen share so I can see your beautiful faces. I'm going to go to gallery mode so I can see everyone's faces. That's lovely. It's beautiful to see you. Claudia, Alick, pronouns they, their, she, hers, speaking to you from the land of the Ohlone people. The people are still alive. Also, digital Zoom land acknowledgement. The Zoom headquarters are also located in Ohlone land. And I acted in a play this week, which was an amazing experience because I actually got to experience what it's like to be an actor without access as a producer or access as a director, and all of the different and additional things folks are asking of folks. All right, check. Whoever's after me, go right ahead.
Is that me? Sorry, is that me, Claudia? Am I next?
Yes, it's Joan.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Joan Lipkin. I'm talking to you from St. Louis, also known as the land of the Osage. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My access needs are fine today. I've been doing a lot of playback internationally and nationally and learning that. And my challenge is trying to think of, excuse me, some very productive and creative ways to deal with the upcoming voter suppression that is happening here in Missouri. And I'm hoping to talk a little bit and get your advice after we hear the intros and what's going on with other people. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your time. Oh, and next is Deborah? Is it Deborah?
No,
Robin.
actually it's Robin.
Oh, it's Robin. I'm sorry, Robin. Next is
No worries. Hi, I'm Robin, she, her, hers. I am speaking from the land of Miwok, coastal Miwok, and Ohlone. I am, my big challenge for this week is OBS, digging in as much as I possibly can, as well as Google Analytics, kind of just jumping back into straight up work stuff. But it's been thrilling and wonderful to weekly meet up with this group. And I am so appreciative of what everyone is talking about when it comes to arts. So, yep, that's it.
Hey everybody, Deborah Eliezer, or Deborah Adabashi as it reads here. She, her, hers, Fool's Fury Theater here in the Bay Area. I'm calling in from Sonoma County, West Sonoma County, which is the ancestral land of the Pomo, otherwise known as Healdsburg. I have on the Mixed Forest, multi-acre artist retreat center. Please come and visit me. I am dealing with the ever-changing question of what is it to make theater and talk about theater in a transmedia space. And we are creating an online digital convening, which will happen I've pushed it back in the fall, which makes me think about what is going to be relevant then versus what it is we're talking about now. And those are some of the things that I'm I'm thinking about. So grateful for this cohort and the amazing people who are showing up. Gratitude to Kholoud and Danny and Claudia. Check.
So mutual. Hi, this is Seth Eisen, and I run Eisen Presents, and we're a queer theater company, makes work about queer history. And I'm calling in from the unceded territory of the Ohlone people in the Bay Area. And I go by pronouns he, him, and I'm really excited about the premiere of our upcoming queer history walking tour called Out of Sight, Soma, about the neighborhood of south of Market in San Francisco. And it's happening on June 19th online live. And we had our first work in progress this past weekend, and it was just really exciting to get feedback from our test audiences and see how we fuck up and things that we need to improve, you know, technically and otherwise, to just create more intimacy. So I'm very excited to be part of this group and really grateful. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Grossman, she, her pronouns. I'm in Washington, D.C. On occupied territory, traditional homelands of the Piscataway and the Nagachitunk. And I'm a director, devised theater artist, engagement strategist. And I am trying, this week, I am wrestling with the question of what live streaming platform to use and to recommend to others, you know, to use for a project. So, and I think echoing what Deborah said, like this idea of when you're creating a project and like things, shit keeps changing. How do you remain relevant when like tomorrow, who knows what the world is going to be like, which I suppose is life in general, but somehow it feels like the world, things are changing faster than they used to be. And on that note, I'm going to quickly change by handing this over to Kitty.
Hi, my name is Kitty Drexel, and I am calling from Boston, the traditional home of the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts tribal nations. And I am the Queen Geek of the New England Theater Geek, a critical constructive criticism blog. There we go. And I'm also a performer, and I am brand new, so I'm excited to learn more. And I'm going to pass it to Liam.
Hey y'all, I'm Liam. I use they and them pronouns. I am in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Osage land. I am a director and a playwright and a maker, and I co-founded a theater company called Last Call that creates work about queer history and podcasts. And we were in the middle of a tour, and so that's a part of what's on my mind is like, what do we do? Do we pivot? We had 3 engagements in the next year. I also am in school right now, and I was directing an 18-person adaptation of 3 Greek plays in the fall. And I had calls with each of the students who was involved in that production, so 18 cast members, but then a bunch of designers as well. And I am managing how do we hold the grief of not being able to be together, even as we hold like the excitement of working. How do those two like really huge emotions coexist? And how do we care for each other inside of that? That's me checked.
Hi, I'm Mickey Goldhaber. I'm the lead instigator of the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival and the artistic director of Rye Cripps Disabled Women's Theater. I'm here from Berkeley, Ohlone land, she, her, hers, and I am still buzzing with excitement from my experience yesterday with the first day of virtual Crip Camp. And here's the link. I strongly urge you to check it out. It's happening all summer long, inspired. documentary Crip Camp, we are having a virtual experience of gathering and talking about issues for the disabled community with many leaders of that community. And it's really fantastic. It's on Sundays at 2 p.m. and anyone can sign up and be part of it and go to as many or as few as they want. So I say, check it out. Thank you.
I'm Sabina. I use she, her pronouns. I'm in New York or Lenape land, and I'm a director and performer. A challenge that I'm having is I'm directing a play over Zoom, and there's one scene, which is an immersive series which invites the audience to participate in the experience of laughter yoga as therapy. And I am trying to creatively brainstorm how to stage and conceptualize that over Zoom in a very non-traditionally participatory space. So struggling with that, also kind of excited with that as well.
Hi, I'm Ian Garrett. I'm coming from Toronto, or Takaranto, he, him, his. This is Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, Métis, and Mississauga land of the credit. I, amongst other things, run a company called Toaster Lab. We're working on a project right now in collaboration with Dancing Earth, which is sort of based between the Bay Area and Santa Fe, of trying to create a live performance online that goes a little bit beyond our Zoom aesthetics that we've been working on. We're going to have an open rehearsal for that in a couple of weeks, using OBS and Skype and NDI and a bunch of fun tools that I'd be happy to help anybody with, and towards a performance in June. And we're also, as part of that, we're organizing a hackathon, which I posted in our group, around distance and remote and low bandwidth work. We're looking for some additional tech or non-tech people to participate in June 13th through 19th, which is all going to be remote. And so spaced out over the course of a week. And the main technical problem that I'm working on right now is audio limitations for collaboration and getting things to actually sync up, as opposed to Zoom and Skype, which tend to give you one single combined audio feed. That's my main thing these days. That's me.
Sabrina Hamilton, she, her, hers, talking to you from the traditional lands of the Nipmuc and Petuxum people in Western Massachusetts, where I run the Co-Festival of Performance. A particular challenge right now is the incredible fragility of our times. I had pivoted from our in-person summer festival to planning digital content, and then when the family member of one of the key players in that has just gotten very, very ill, am now trying to figure out version 3. It's a fragile time, and flexibility is key. That's me.
Thank you, Sabrina. Patricia Miller, San Francisco, which is Ramaytush Ohlone land. I'm a freelance producer of Pollinator Arts and also work with the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival. I'm a teacher, professor. That's pretty much been dominating my week, as getting about 100 people through finals, with the new realization that we are now not only doing summer semester, but also fall semester. Creative work will be happening through December on this platform. And I, quite frankly, am just dealing with the emotional fallout of that. And I'm curious not only to continue the conversation about audience spaces and activated moments, such as the piece that I think Sabina spoke of, needing that laughter yoga, but also the new and whether you found that platform, conferencing platform, is better for our purposes than Zoom. Pretty short check-in, that's me, thank you. I think it's, I don't know who is next. I can't see. Is it Tanya?
Tiara, do you want to go?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Kiara Klein. I am coming to you live from the Piscataway, traditional Piscataway lands, Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm the director of artistic producing at Baltimore Center Stage, also here as a representative of the Play at Home initiative. And my pronouns are she, her, hers. Something that's been weighing on my heart and my mind in these times is the kind of us and them divisions that I'm seeing among the theater community and the arts community in general, on pretty much every line that you can measure. But the thing that's kind of giving me the most pause right now is artists versus institutions, institutions versus artists versus boards versus audiences. It feels really fractured, and it's a thing that I've really been thinking about that I haven't articulated to other people very much, and so it's a thing that I'm thinking a lot about.
Thank you, Chair. This is Tanya Newmeyer, zooming in from the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, most recently the Mississauga, the New Credit, colonially known as Toronto. My pronouns are they, them. Currently, my access needs are met. And I'm a poet and poetry community organizer. Our next Poetry Slam will be our 6th online. It's a bi-weekly series, and it happens this Sunday, 8 p.m. May 24th. So feel free to pop on by and see how we're doing things there. It's a lot of fun and interactive space. I'm not sure what to say insofar as how challenges and opportunities are really weaving themselves together for me, but I continue to be very grateful for this space. I suppose one thing I have been working on is an article about what my hopes are in terms of continuing some of the accessibility measures that are made possible by the pandemic for people with disabilities. And I'm hoping that when able-bodied people get to go back to a life as normal, the pathways that have been paved are not erased, but instead can be continued. I find that challenging to talk about, but I'm working on trying to write something a little bit about the hope, the baby bit of hope that I have about that. So stay tuned. And Wednesday is next.
Thanks, Tanya. Thanks, everyone. I'm just like my breath is taken by how much I identify with everything everyone is talking about here. I use she, her pronouns. My name is Wednesday. I'm without video today. I'm coming to you from upstate New York. Many people's fought over this land and shared it. Iroquois, Mohawk, Oneida, Algonquin. I am a founder of Experimental Bitch Presents, which is a New York-based feminist company. We produce live performance, and we also provide an alternative network for femmes and queer peoples. We just launched our Bitch and Collabs residency, which my partner Tatiana Bakari spoke about here a few weeks ago. So we are now reviewing so many amazing applications and actually turned the residency completely virtual. So we were able to accept artists from all over the world, which is very exciting. And something that's on my mind is we are about to do our first live stream of a reading. And I'm choosing to do this as a pre-recorded showing, just so I can have a little control over the content, and doing it on YouTube, which I actually learned about on these meetings, being able to do that. So I think we're going to be covered. But access is still on my mind because people just aren't really reserving tickets the same way, I feel like. So I'm trying to think about if using a ticket site, like I just switched over to ThunderTix, which I highly recommend if anyone has been kicked off of Artfully. But yeah, I'm hoping to find ways to access the audience in more ways than just sending out a ticket link. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time here.
I think I'm up next. Can you hear me? Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Shane Spaulding. I live in San Francisco. I identify by he, him. Native American tribes here in San Francisco, at least in the area I lived in, the Ohlone, Shoshanko, and Karkeen. I'm from Kentucky originally and grew up around Cherokee and Shawnee tribal lands. I'm all good on access. I'm not sure if we were posed with a question or just supposed to sort of say what's on our mind. I had to join the call a little late. I will say I was excited this past week. I found out I'll be serving as a production assistant, which in this project is like being a stage manager to a degree for the Bay Area Playwrights Foundation. They produce a festival every year with 5 upcoming playwrights, and about a week and a half ago, they announced the 5 playwrights, and now they're hiring PAs, and they did go ahead and make the decision to produce the entire festival online. So being in this group, I think, is actually going to be helpful, thinking about the challenges that other people are facing, whether they're producing poetry slams or radio plays or whatever they're going after. I hope this hurdle is something that we care, the benefits we carry with us into the future. I do think that accessibility for lots of reasons is difficult for some of the viewing public, and I think using online platforms might be a way to open the door to more people to enjoying performance arts. And it doesn't necessarily, I don't think it competes with the live experience. Lastly, as I was joining, someone was mentioning the divisions they're noticing within the industry where different groups are kind of speaking out against each other. And I've been seeing that too. And that is really alarming and frustrating and a bummer to me. So I see lots of hands up, so I'm going to shut up. I don't know what's going on. Thank you.
Just jumping in, we do a very soft group management thing where we try to keep our introductions a minute or less because there's so many of us. And we just do this to be like, it's about that time.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We have a couple more voices to hear from, and then we can get into the juicy conversations.
Aaron or Alex, not to put you guys on the spot, but would either of you like to go next?
Hey, Aaron Merritt, Chichenyo, Ohlone Lands. I work with Bay Area Women's Theater Festival. I'm also starting a new project called Neighborhood Stories, and I work for Magic in various different jobs. Access needs that being on Zoom all the time is making me insane, and so I may have to just move out at any moment. And problem that I'm having is that I'm just getting really impatient with the online process. It's exhausting to watch shows online. I don't think everybody's trying to rush to get so many things out that I don't think they're necessarily doing things that work with the format. And I don't want us flooding the airwaves with so much content that people don't understand that they need our paid content. And I want to see us doing this smartly. Oh, and somebody's asking, what is Neighborhood Stories? It's an offline live production that is safe. So if anybody wants to help me work on that, send me your email in the private chat and I will contact you about that. But it's very, very local theater.
I'm also going to invite Danny to introduce themselves and Sabina as well. We are a non-hierarchical group. Everybody's voice matters. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Danny Bay. I'm based in Oakland in the Ohlone land. My access needs are met. I may have to move position at some point, just letting you all know. Yeah, that's about it. I'm excited to hear what challenges we're gonna overcome and what we're gonna do to collaborate and work together. That's all I've got.
Went already, but hi again.
I think Alex didn't go, yes?
Correct.
That's me, Alex. Okay, hello. Alex Meva, she, her, hers. I'm in the land of the Chumash and the Tonga here in East LA, Boyle Heights. And I'm with Teatro Luna and Teatro Luna West.
All right, as always, we prep for these amazing conversations with you, my amazing national colleagues or international colleagues, and then we are overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that's just generated in the introductions. So this is what we brought to talk about, discuss, explore, and I think that we're going to actually pivot towards doing what this meeting wants us to do, but this is what we brought to potentially talk about. We have Kiara Klein here to share with us the play on producing model, and we really do want to do a field trip where we allow Kiara to share the screen and take a few minutes to tell us about what that project's about and how it's working, how they are actually producing it. Deeply excited. Thank you for joining us. Also excited about the fact that that's a collaboration between multiple theaters. Want to hear more about that. We brought in the video from the Guthrie Theater's Joe Hodge, where he spoke about how he believes that, well, it's just a beautiful, impassioned statement with some very strongly held opinions about theater and liveness. And we thought it might be an interesting provocation for our group just to like watch that video and have a conversation about it. But that could take up all the time. Let's see, we brought in 4 different articles on just going back up the notes to get to them. 4 different articles on producing models and the sort of thoughts people are having about the future of not only the sort of establishment models that some of us work within and some of us work outside of already, and defining the importance of art and all of those conversations. So that's what we brought. This is what y'all talked about just in your introductions. Deeply excited. Which streaming platforms are the best ones to have? Now that connects to our previous conversations about how Facebook is not the commons, YouTube is not the commons. Some institutions have the ability to buy and purchase their own streaming platforms, like the Oregon Shakespeare Festival can use Ustream. So there's some different layers of that conversation depending on where you're classed and what your access to stuff is. I love working with HowlRound. I've been really enjoying the ethics of how they work, but they're working with a lot of the same platforms and technologies that we've already been mentioning in our conversations. It's nothing brand new. And then, of course, there's Nash, which I think I brought to the conversation last meeting or the meeting before, and they're actually asking us on the advisory committee, can you please really thoughtfully help us engage and curate artists? So it's not just this, like they have an open call, but they're like, will you help us sign up? So what streaming platforms? We can talk about that. Let's see, how to stage the immersion, how to stage something immersive and physical and engaging in a digital platform. That feels like a fun conversation, interesting. How do you do season planning when one of the big unknowns is literally the people? Like, will the people be there to make the art with you? That was huge. So I suggest, there's like 3 more things on this list. I suggest that we start, and of course, Joan brought in a challenge that would be useful also to listen to and bounce off of. So how about we talk about streaming platforms real quick? What are our favorite streaming platforms? What do we think? Big fat opinions. I'm gonna give us like 5 to 6 minutes though, and then cap us and have us move on. But let's take 5 to 10 minutes to like talk platform. And I'm just gonna say 5 minutes. Let's talk 5 minutes to talk streaming platforms. There's a lot of them out there. What do we think? What are our opinions?
I still feel like it's easiest for me to watch stuff on Facebook, but I totally understand that there are a lot of objections to being on Facebook. So I'm really torn. I'm starting to think about YouTube, but I'm sure there's objections there too.
I saw Ian with his hand up.
Yeah, for the streaming work that we're developing, we're actually trying not to prefer one over the other. I mean, we do most of the work that we've done the past in partnership with HowlRound, and they're using Livestream, which is a Vimeo product, right? So those are useful right now through the. They're a partner on this project that I'm involved with at the National Arts Center here, which is involving like 10 different Zoom locations going through OBS and then going out again. So it's streaming out through HowlRound, but the actual back-end connection is through this, and they've sort of created Vijay has created a back-end infrastructure. OBS, I can answer that question too. For the project that we're streaming out right now, specifically this one we're working on with Dancing Earth, we're looking at using Restream, which will let it go out. Essentially, whenever you're streaming something, all of these effectively use the same thing, which is RTMP, which is a protocol for sending streaming video. And that's the same thing that Twitch and YouTube and all of them, how they take it in. And so there are platforms like Restream, which is at restream.io, which allows you to restream it to all of those. It adds a little bit of latency, but you can then send it to, I think, like 30 or something different sites, including the big ones. I learned recently that Twitch itself is great. A friend or 1/3 of Toaster Lab, our company, rebuilt Switch. It's like only 60 lines of code for the streaming. And he did it to do a project that was sort of a pirate radio station so that he could get around a lot of the limitations of that. But I say we're trying to use as many of them concurrently as possible. And OBS is open broadcast software. It's a free open source virtual video switcher. And what's really nice about it is that for our backend we use Skype, and Skype allows you to use what's a network device interface, which is how they network cameras together. But if you pull it in through Skype, and I think there's a way to do it through Zoom, but we haven't been doing it, you can pull in everybody's individual video into OBS and then mix them together. And that's sort of how we've been creating our performances. It doesn't do the audio thing though. When I mentioned my problem earlier, it doesn't do audio synchronously very well. You can only get the one audio stream, which is the combined one, where it prioritizes who's talking. With that, I'm going to deprioritize myself talking.
Rachel, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Ian or anyone, have you used StreamYard? That is a question that I have.
I will say that I was just working with a colleague named Dino, who I'm hoping is going to join us in one of our future conversations, who was just shouting out StreamYard. They had experienced StreamYard through a bunch of drag shows, and we're suggesting that we do a watch party to try StreamYard out for ourselves. So we were going to restream the show that we just did through StreamYard, specifically so we could play with the platform, but also so we could invite our friends to see our show.
Yeah. Kiara, you said you used it. Do you?
Yeah, we used it at Baltimore Center Stage, and we're going to use it, but it's mostly for like a live DJ set, because of that kind of like way that because of that, that's just like easier, and with copyright music, because it doesn't like live on. But I guess like my thing with all these different platforms has a lot to do with like matching the experience to the thing. I think that for me personally, I think that I really enjoyed the ones like the Facebooks and the YouTubes that allow for live commenting, because that gives me personally, like I have no interest in watching anything by myself anymore. Like I just don't want to, especially not something like I'd rather watch something TV or film. I'm not really that interested. But when I'm live commenting with somebody else, it's kind of recreating for me the experience of being with other people, and that is something that it never occurred to me to want to live tweet a play before, but now it's actually the only way that you can get me to watch a play online.
And Kiara, that's exactly, oh, Claudia, can I comment back?
Please.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to figure out through all these streams. And I know that StreamYard at least has like a comment box that you can put up next to it. But I think my biggest challenge with both OBS, StreamYard, and no matter what. Like obviously you could have a Zoom and you can feed it to any platform that you can comment on, but when we're talking about multiple levels of engagement, you know, a chat box only and or the video is only one. So like I'm trying to figure out how do we build in as many like what is the platform that will allow us a small amount of artistic control, which is the least of my concerns on the back end, but the most amount of engagement possibilities on the front end. So that's why I'm just curious about the usability of StreamYard or Restream or like, you know, OBS, because I know you can pull in a chat function from like, I was about to say Grindr, friends, and it's not Grindr. It is not Grindr, but I wanted to, I thought that would all make you laugh. So I realized you would all appreciate it. Discord, from
Discord. Nice. But here's the thing. We're saying all of these different platforms. These are all platforms that can work with each other. So we've named like a bunch of different things. And I like I was just making a response video to Joe Haj's video where I was reflecting that my bias is I want to be everywhere. So my perfect producing strategy is to create something that can comfortably live on all of the different platforms. I'm just not sure exactly how that financially impacts my work right now, and also how that interrupts my relationship with audience. So somebody was mentioning like, did anyone go to see Bill Irwin, who did like the 10-minute live wacky clowning? I'm so rude. It wasn't just Bill. Bill was clowning with someone else. I'm just biased towards Bill.
It's Chris Fitzgerald.
Thank you. They were brilliant. They were hilarious. It was fabulous. It was so much fun. It was only 10 minutes long. It was streamed simultaneously through Vimeo and YouTube, but they turned off the commenting on both of them. So I wasn't able to connect with the other ultra nerds who had made sure to be watching it. Like I was so darn excited to connect with Bill Irwin heads. And I was mad at the theater and actually wrote Mr. Edelston, and I was like, you need to turn on the way to let us talk to each other next time. Because that's what the internet lets you do. You can just Facebook people, apparently. Any other reflections on platform before we move the conversation on to other things?
I did have one thing that my husband is currently working on, that idea of overlapping audio. So he's working on Mixler. He just downloaded that app, and then he downloaded another app that was supposed to help like Mixler interact with Zoom or what's the other Zoom platform? Anyway, Skype. That's what he's been working on, is to do it through Skype. And I'll let you know if that's something that someone else has been working on. I'm all ears. Otherwise, I'll let you guys know how it goes. He's trying to get a radio drama happening, similar to what somebody had mentioned last week about being able to just do the dishes and listen to the story in the background. So we're working on that. But Mixler was the other one, and then I can't remember the other software that he was working on. But if anyone's had,
I would so love that information.
Seth, I think Seth had a question for the group, and then I'm going to pivot us, although I'm just going to say this out loud. I think that we need to have a full session, perhaps not this group, but like maybe lift this up to a HowlRound session, but we need to have a full session on latency, musical collaboration, and all of the different ways we're engaging with this. Because even when I was in a building where it was the same recording studio, but one recording studio was a floor up, we had latency issues syncing the audio. We got to figure this out. Yeah, this is real. So like, I think I'm arguing to bump this up to a larger field-wide conversation, because we've all been obsessively trying to solve this for like months.
Well, and how have any of the podcasts been doing? I mean, podcasts have been around for, I don't understand why this is suddenly a thing.
It's asynchronicity. They collaborate asynchronously. This is how I make tracks with other hip hop artists. They send me the track and then I rap. Okay, I'm revealing a couple of things about myself, and then I'll spit to the track, and then I'll send that back to them, and then they'll mess with it. but none of it's happening in real time because of latency. But I skipped Seth. Seth had a question, and Ian had his hand up because he was about to like drop some knowledge on us, and I want to hear the knowledge Ian's about to drop. But respect to Seth. What was your
Can we have Ian go first? Because I want to hear the response to that, and then I just want to chime in with a question.
Okay, I'll be quick. Well, on the podcast side of things, for a couple of years now, I've used a platform called Zencastr, which essentially uses WebRTC, which is real-time chat. It's also how Discord audio works. And so it minimizes the latency because it's as low, but there's no video or anything like that. So the challenge that we've had, because you can hear everybody at the same time and locally record with Zencastr, which is what makes podcast syncs work for a clean edit later. You can get that happen, but getting that then out of Zencastr and back into a feed has been a real technical challenge.
Nice. On the Facebook, the Transmedia Performance Facebook page, there was a long conversation where Zencastr was like the main platform that was discussed. Like I said, I wanna dedicate 90 minutes to just talk about this. I would love to also make sure we're prioritizing giving us a little bit of time for our field trip. So I'm going to transition us away from platforms, as well as transitioning us away from a conversation about sound latency issues, and pivot towards giving the microphone to Kiara Klein to share a little bit about the play at home model. I'm messing up your title. Please tell us about your project.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. So Play at Home is a national initiative that launched on April 1st. It was the brainchild, basically, I work with Stephanie Ibarra at Baltimore Center Stage, and we were having this conversation right around like March 15th-ish about like, what should we do? What do the people want and whatever, and what are like the two biggest priorities in this moment, and we decided that the two biggest priorities were getting money to artists as soon as possible, particularly to writers, and keeping regular people connected to theater. We knew that like theaters were going to be fine with like as far as they're going to figure out their content and everything, but how do we do those two things? And we organized a bunch of our friends at Long Wharf Theater, Woolly Mammoth, St. Louis Rep, and the Public to come together and to each commission writers at a level of $500 each with these with what we called micro commissions that were basically 3 to 5 days, write us a 5 to 10 minute play following guidelines such as think about it being multi-generational, think about it being like unproducible, so like fun stage directions, talking animals, like hundreds of people in it, we don't care. They're meant to be read, and they're meant to be read by regular people. And then what we did was made them all freely available online for anybody to download and read and perform with their isolation cells or over Zoom. And so the idea was born. And then we also put out this call that basically said that any theater or any person that with $500 to spend could commission a writer. And so since then, since April 1st, at which time we had about somewhere between like 30 and 35 commissions at that point, the project has kind of like grown mostly virally to include, we're going to announce this week that we've made our 100th commission. And by we, I mean like theaters from around the country, from the Kennedy Center that commissioned like 14 of them to Relative Theatrics in Laramie, Wyoming that commissioned 1. And so, and it's still growing. And so I really love the fact that like anybody can be in on it more or less. So any of you, if you have $500 or your friends, you can just commission a person. And so I'll just, Claudia, since you said the word screen share, I figured why not. So the website is playathome.org. Am I doing it? Can you see this website? You can see this?
You're doing it. You're doing it.
Okay, great. I have two screens, and so I couldn't figure out if it was the right screen. So this is the Play at Home website. And as you can see, we asked people to give us like their quarantine photos. And so these are all the writers that we have, and there's, you know, pages and pages of plays, which now are also organized by category. So if you're looking for things that are kid friendly, for instance, you can sort a little bit easier now. And so when you pick a play, you just click on the writer, and then all you do is you hit download, and then I'm not sure if this screen's coming up too, but the play is downloaded and it's yours to perform. And these are all of our partner theaters so far. There's a few other ones that are yet to be announced. But as I said, pretty much anybody can come on and do it. And the next, so the next phase of this, which again, we're going to announce, I think that later this week or maybe early next week, is really, because we haven't really been encouraging people to, or like actively encouraging people or like producing these, but it's been happening on its own. And we invite people to tag us in it when they do. But we're actually going to be more actively inviting people to share their like at-home readings and stuff like that with the hashtag Play at Home Plays. And we're going to, anyone that is posted on YouTube, we're going to like do in a gallery on our website, so that just like more people can just see each other's work. And so like, I think that some of the ways that this has been really successful so far is that because we didn't set out with a like a producing goal really, what's been produced has been really super organic and just like and beloved by the people that have done it, and kind of like for no other reason than just to like be connected to theater. There's this one like little collective of artists that has been getting together to perform these like weekly, like doing curated things, and they get in touch with the writers directly to ask for permission. But since not that much money is changing hands and stuff, most writers are like totally cool with that. But we only hold the license to put them on our website for free download and non-commercial and individual use. So all the writers still own all their own plays. So that is, I see a question. How do you partner with the companies? You just really, so we have two ways that people get in touch with us. Either they get in touch with someone they already know, someone that they already know is in touch, such as like someone will reach out to one of the artistic directors or to me, or they email us through the contact form on our website, and then that basically also goes to me. And then I just reach out with, we have a toolkit that has a sample letter of agreement, some graphics, the commissioning tracker, so that you know who's already been asked and who's already declined, importantly, so that people don't keep going back to the same people. And also we're not commissioning the same playwright more than once, to keep it fair. And then the writers, once they've written their plays, send their plays, all their information in through like a Google form that's also in that toolkit. So it's basically an opt-in kind of partnership. So that's my spiel. Please feel free to ask questions or to email me. Either you can email me at cklein@centerstage.org. C. Klein like Calvin Klein.
Now, careful, we share these on YouTube to a very large and public audience. You just gave your email to about 20 other theater producers.
That's okay. I'm not too worried about it. I think my email might be on the Center Stage website. Yeah, that's right. Oh, Center Stage with an ER.
Excellent. So I'm a big fan of productive silence. I'm going to give us a moment to see if there's any emerging questions that are bubbling up with folks before I move us to other topics. You go right ahead. Just unmute yourself. Just go for it.
Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry. It's so exciting that y'all are doing that, and I loved what you led with in terms of like we wanted to get money in the hands of artists. I think it's really important right now. Is there any way, and I love this, and I love that there's so many, I feel like there's something about like wrapping your mind around something for playwrights that like that has been a thing that I've seen people doing. Do you all have any plans, as this grows or in other ways to loop in? Are you thinking about ways to pay other theater artists as well, performers, directors? Because I'm thinking about like Play at Home is really great, and it's kind of replacing everyone else in the infrastructure. It's also really exciting and emergent, but curious how you're thinking about it.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like it's like because now lay people are actors and stuff. Is that what you mean by replacing?
Well, and I think it's great that everybody's actors, but just like as we're thinking about how do we get money in artists' hands, like how does that figure into this in terms of like all the other artists who are usually engaged in a production?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I think that's part of the reason why we're like kind of not producing these is because it feels like or if we ever produce any of them or any of the individual theater companies ever produce them, then everybody's going to get paid. Part of it is that like because I've gotten the question quite a lot of like can I submit my play, can you post my play on the website, that kind of thing, which makes total sense. Or people being like, we're gonna have a reading of them, and like, we want to raise money, or we want to whatever. And one of the biggest things here is that there's no shortage of artists that will work for free and that will post their stuff online for free. And so I think that like that's the sort of the flip side is like there's it's not a unique idea for theaters to be producing short plays on Zoom. And I'm hearing quite a lot of writers especially, but other artists being like, theater, stop asking me to write monologues. I'm not interested in writing monologues anymore. And so I think that this is just one piece of the ecology. Play at Home is definitely not meant to like solve any problem really, other than like a couple of $100s to a couple of writers. And one of the things about like the virality of it, I think that's useful is that we don't know necessarily what's going to happen, and we don't know necessarily, and we're not trying to control what like which writers get commissioned and what happens to the plays, and that's part of the reason why we're like they keep the rights to their own plays. So I don't know, but I think it's a great point that like I wish that more people would do things that were just focused on lots of different writers or lots of different artists. Yeah.
Hey, this is Deborah.
I'm going to pass the microphone to you, Deborah. Colleagues, I want to give you a heads up. I've put a link in the chat. This link is in response to Rachel Grossman saying how much, I think it was Rachel Grossman that said that they enjoyed Mentimeter as a cool polling, and I'm totally into it. I've been playing with it all week. It's my new favorite toy. Oh, cool. So I just made us a quick, fast link. If people want to play, click that link, type it in, and then I will share with us at the end of our gathering in 30 minutes. I will share with us what we got. Next conversations coming up after this or touring, and then we're going to play with a little bit of embodiment stuff. Go right ahead, Deborah.
Thanks, Claudia. I love Mentimeter too. I love watching the word clouds happen. Kiara, I just want to, and Liam too, you kind of brought it up too. It's so exciting. What I love is that you and your colleagues were in a position where you could gather your resources quickly and create a format that like did something quickly. So I just props to that. I also want to say that it's an exciting format. I agree. The writing stuff is really getting readers to read, quote unquote, lay folk, whomever are theater curious, like that is so important in terms of engaging and reminding people. So I affirm that. And then I also want to say that it, as Liam was saying, it prioritizes the writer and language in terms of what is theater. And it at the point where I feel like we are now in kind of looking at where are we going online and with transmedia. I think I'm personally concerning myself with as a person who runs an ensemble theater company, which is kind of dedicated to the models that are non-horizontal. How do we reprioritize so that I can use that model and but uplift like all the actors all the folks who, not just actors and writers, who are involved in a collaborative process to create a play. So Kiara, you're inspiring that other possible iteration that might happen. I wanted to lift that up and just say that language is still being prioritized in the theater, and we need to consider ways forward that will uplift other, and that's because the system of writers has been really codified up to this point. So we're in this moment where we can continue to uplift the systems that already are in place, or we can try to change some of them. And I just wanted to recognize, I just want to call that into the room. And then I really apologize, but I have to jump off this call right now. Thank you so much for this valuable conversation. I'm done. I'm out.
Well, and I'm going to acknowledge that we originally scheduled these to be 60 minutes, but then when the amount of participants created the half-an-hour introduction, we expanded to a 90-minute format. There's never a need to let us know. Like I love the politeness of being like, I got to drop out, but we'll be sharing this video. So our design is about accessibility and also an acknowledgement that we are living in tumultuous and chaotic times. So we've created a pod, a gathering space, where if your life means that you can't make it for a week, that's okay. You can still access what you need to access. And you can also, if you want to, leave us a comment and we can lift up something in the group. So just shouting that out. All right, so I had on my list of hanging topics. We had some creative challenges that Joan was exploring. Rachel had brought up the creative challenge of touring, and Sabina had brought up the creative challenge of trying to find engagement possibilities, physical engagement possibilities in a digital land. Joan, if there's more details you want to share with us real quick so we can respond to you with a little more specificity, please weigh in. But yeah, let's take the next 10 minutes to share some ideas, some creative ideas about alternate structures and creative stuff.
Happy to. Hi, everyone. So I might have mentioned this before, but I have a theater company that's based in St. Louis, although we do things in many places. And one of our projects, and I'm going to put the website on the chat in a moment, is called Dance the Vote. We had 1,100 people come and did a lot of voter registration and had many, many artists last October. Obviously, we can't do that now. And so one of the things that we're considering is doing a socially distanced community dance class outside the Missouri History Museum that also promotes voting at the same time. And what I would love is people's suggestions about the best platform, the best way for us to do this, because I'd like to do it in real time and then maybe record it so that we can continue to push it out. The other thing that I would love people's thoughts about is that we are dealing with a real serious voter suppression issue here. And this is something that maybe a lot of us can be lending our thoughts to wherever we live, is that with COVID, it's going to be very challenging for a lot of people to go safely to the polls. So the question is, can we promote absentee ballots, or what's called vote at home? Our Republican governor and Secretary of State are really trying to control this. So what I want to do is do a music video that promotes people either becoming notaries or going to notaries, and really pushing that out maybe by August, so that this is something that can be helpful for November. So those are the two things, is that ideas are my thing, technology is not. And I really would appreciate anybody's suggestions. And I'm going to put the website now into the chat. I hope that that's a an easy and accessible summary? Was that, give me a thumbs up if that was clear.
Yep, that was super easy, super accessible to understand. You know, I'm already thinking about, you know, a lot of these things are already things that have existed that we've already done. Like the entire point of Rock the Vote was using music videos and asynchronous communicative digital communications and cultural productions to inspire people to do actions in the real world. So I feel like there's a lot of the building blocks already for this. Ian is doing some beautiful work with Dancing Earth. So we've had some collaborators inside these conversations who've talked about sharing their dance practice. So I feel like the building blocks are all here. I am curious about how what we're trying to do is potentially different. What are the, like, what's the difference between making a music video and sharing it on YouTube and asking people to watch the music video on YouTube and go do something out in the world? Is there something else that's different that belongs in the middle there, which makes me pivot to Sabina's question. What's the thing you're trying to stage?
It's the play itself is a series of vignettes about like modern Indian politics, and there's one scene where there's like a yoga instructor who's trying to do like laughter therapy with the audience, which would make a lot more sense if it was like a group of people and you kind of had to like force everyone to do something physical and could play around with accessibility. But I don't know, I've played around with the director about ideas of, do we have everyone turn their Zoom mic and videos on and kind of pause the performance and like explain to people that we're kind of doing this experiment? Do we cut the scene and instead go for something more traditional? Yeah, there's like, how does one engage in this like really visceral participatory act while also like not like taking people out of it and like reminding people that you're on Zoom and we're in these different spaces. Like it definitely feels like a challenge.
Sabina, I'm really interested in that subject as well. We've touched on it once or twice. I know Tanya from the spoken word group in Toronto have experimented with having the audience on mute at the moment when the expected like laughter moment, or not laughter, but the end of I think it was 3.5 minutes limit for the average slam poet. I mean, I also have experienced a group that had a selected audience on Zoom, and then the mainstream was being received through Twitch. And that was actually a dance party, but you actually had a chance to have a curated audience, sort of like splash on that audience member who happened to be dancing in a particular way, which could same be the laughter. I mean, I have the same project, similar problem, I should say, with my project. Sorry, these time things make me really nervous. Apologize for being inarticulate. I watched this drag show, very famous drag show, on the weekend, and it was hosted by Rush Ticks. And only the actors, the 4 actors, were on screen, and there was no laughter. And it just really fell so flat. It really, really fell flat. And it doesn't matter if we were chatting like, haha, that was great. It was just a lame experience that I wish I hadn't had, and I was sort of embarrassed for them. So this is something I really would love to see in a poll, like whether we want to talk about audience engagement strategies that are about the haptic shared space, the tactile space, and the audio space.
In the last show that I was in this week, we had this exercise where we asked audience members to, so we said the line, and in this moment would have been very fast in the real space. Would have been like, yo, audience, shout out the words you agree with too. And then the audience would shout out their words, right? And in that, we are staging a shared moment of audience and performers. We're blending us and we're all one. So like, that's the point of what we're doing theatrically, right? Asking the audience to give language and agency and to become a part of the play that is about the play. So we had the artist do what you just said. Say, hey, audience, we're talking to you, audience. Yes, you. What we want you to do is we want you to type into the notes. Go ahead, type into the notes. Say your thing. You, say your thing. Then we modeled. We said our things, right? We modeled. And then we started to read what came out of the chat. So for me, the bigger question is the question is not what's possible, because I think it's all possible. I think the real question is, what are you trying to stage, Sabina? Like, what's the actual action and the moment that you want that your audience members to be activated in doing in all of their different spaces? I'm also going to do this quick exercise with you all in a little embodiment. I've got some beautiful energy in my hands. I'm going to share it with you now. I'm going to put my hands below the screen like this and say, here you go. Here's that energy. Now I'm going to ask you to put your hands in front of the screen and take that energy back to yourself and then numb it up. Just open it up and just go. Oh, that was delicious. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that exercise. Now, what did I just do? I just pretended I had a thing, but you had a shared imaginative moment with me. You imbued this invisible thing, and then you picked up an invisible thing that was now imbued with the thing that we had all created together. And then you touched yourself, which is something we're all starving for today. So I feel like we've got a lot of different topics. Chiara, please.
Yeah, I think I would like big echo to the idea of like, what is it that you're trying to do? Because I also think that like my personal experience that when I'm on Zoom like all the time, as I know that everybody is, and Zoom no longer has an association for me of like being anything that I really want to be like that I like to do in my free time. I don't really like to. And I don't really like when my friends want to hang out, we don't really use Zoom because it feels like work still. And so I think that, and when I'm at like a show in my living room, I really don't want to turn on my camera. And in fact, I like left more than one thing that I didn't know was supposed to be like your camera was supposed to be on. And I was like, no, this is not for me tonight. I wasn't prepared I wasn't like emotionally prepared to be on screen. I wanted to be texting with my friends. Like I was multitasking. I wasn't ready for it. And so I do think that like the setting up of the expectations for your audiences so that you have because there are folks that want to opt into that want to be there. And then there are folks like me most of the time and I'm like, if I want to be there, I'll be there, but I don't want to be like, I wanted to be anonymous today. And I think that I also wonder about just the table setting that gets you to the what you want and the self-selection that gets you to the what you want and then the future.
I think, Chiara, that's to me, harkening back to how I feel that there's a big underbelly to the conversation we had about platform, that in some moments from a technical point of view, I feel a little bit platform agnostic and like, can the tool accomplish the thing? Good. But the question for me that's actually bigger is like, where is the audience? What do they want and where are they comfortable, right? So if you're only comfortable on Zoom with your camera off, that's a really specific type of audience. And is that the majority of the audience? Is there an opportunity on that platform for like multiple permeations of audience? So some people camera off, some people camera on. Obviously permissions become really important about like, can you control that or do you need an extra moderator to control something like that? Yeah, levels of interaction. I think that's something that the chat function I've heard here is essential, and it certainly was in our work with the Toronto Poetry Slam. And we play with our fourth wall by muting and unmuting after the 3 minutes and 10 seconds, as Patricia mentioned. And I think there's something for us that stays as an anchor for me. It's what are we used to doing in person, and to what extent do we want to replicate that online? And maybe for the time being and maybe for longer. And then the other question for me that's just about as important is like, what can't we do in person, and how much do we want to do something that's very unique in the digital space? And is there overlap between those two? One micro way that we've seen that play out is about sharing judging. So we judge poems after you put up the scorecards. If you're in a physical venue, we've had it put up in the chat box for transparency on Zoom, but you can direct message, which means that judges therefore aren't as accountable or maybe won't be biased by publicly sharing their scores, which is a really micro nerdy slam poetry question of, like, is that transparency and accountability important or not? Is knowing who the judges are enough, because we drop the highest and lowest scores and just keep the middle three, so you're getting an average sense of how it landed with the audience. But our art form is very highly interactive, and for me, that's an interesting microcosm of, is it better for us to do something like that online that we can't do in person? questions to think about.
I really like the question that people have been asking of like, why do you want to do this like participatory immersive technique, not just like for the sake of being participatory and immersive, but like, why does it make sense in the context of the play? Why does it make sense in the context of the theme? And I was trying to think about it, and I was like, okay, like I could give you the justification in terms of like why it makes sense in this scene, why it makes sense for the characters. But now I'm trying to think, okay, but like, why does it make sense for everyone that's experiencing this like thing together? Like, is this something that's going to make people feel included and like part of something bigger, or is it going to feel like a homework assignment? And that's definitely something that I have to think about. And like, you know, like I don't want it to feel like it's this kind of like burden that, you know, people maybe are being able to have this kind of passive experience versus active experience. So that's definitely something to really think about, and I'm really grateful for that question.
I think that's awesome. I just want to say one more really quick thing, which is that there's also like I think that what someone was saying, I forgot, I'm sorry, about like the sort of multiple entry points into whatever, and like what types of different things that you want to be offering to people seems like as good a place as any to start too. A thing that, this is not like live performance necessarily, but a thing that we started doing at Baltimore Center Stage is that we always had like coffee break on Friday mornings where there was like coffee and donuts, and it's literally like social hour, and sometimes departments hosted it and like it was themed, but most of the time it was just literally coffee and donuts in the lobby. And we started doing like a digital version of that sort of, but what I realized was that what people actually want is to see each other and to activate the chat, which means that you just need something, anything happening here so that the chat can be activated. Because it doesn't make sense for us to try to have a conversation with 60 people, but doing things like a game that's also this, or a company meeting where like the executive director is talking for a while, but really just the chat is going. It's like those things we're just holding, like, yes, a company meeting needs to happen and information needs to be transmitted, but more importantly, everyone is seeing each other's faces and making each other laugh over here. And that's actually the secret purpose of those meetings. And so I think I would invite everybody to figure out what like your stated purpose is and what your secret purpose is. And then also, do the artists need something different than what the audience needs? Because that's actually okay too. And I think that we're really used to like those being much more combined than they need to be right now.
I think we also need to be aware that we can, yes, just claps, claps, claps. Y'all are dropping science and knowledge, and I love all of your beautiful brains. And you're building the future of cultural producing as we are going to come to know it. So thank you for your labor. I am deeply excited about all of this. In our last few moments together, I do want to acknowledge that we as a group are not doing best practices at making these meetings themselves fully accessible. When we post our work to YouTube, we add captions, but we haven't added in the exercise of captioning this meeting. So we're going to try to level up and add that to future meetings. That hasn't been a request or a stated need from anyone who's participating, but we figure we might as well work the muscle and build that into this part of our functioning. So shout out to that. I posted a link to your beautiful let's see, and I think that I can actually go to it possibly. Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Here's your word cloud, the beautiful word cloud that y'all made together. Awkward, mixed reality, breathe, renaissance, displaced, connection, innovation, segmented, unbounded, engagement, multidimensional, resilience, distributed, innovative, justice, vital, exciting, homesick, essential, ranch, outside, hopeful, inclusive, loving it all. This is dope. Just an example of things we can do together while apart. That was fun. Thank you for that meeting making. And thanks for playing with Mintymeter.com. That was super fun. I believe we have touched upon most of the comments except for touring. We didn't really talk about what are alternatives to touring? What's the future of touring? I recognize that the person who brought this topic to the conversation actually had to dip about 10 minutes ago. So I don't know if that's a question that's held by anyone at this moment, right now.
I have a thought that in my mind links us back to the conversation we were just having about like asking the question, where is your audience? Because I think to build off of Tiara, I hope I'm saying that right. Oh, I see you
It's
saying
like
something.
Kiara with a K.
Oh, Kiara, thank you. To build off of what Kiara said, that there's a stated purpose and then there's alternate purposes, and they don't necessarily align for the artist and the audience. So I think, you know, the purpose of touring as an artist, on one hand, is to share your work with a more broad audience, but the audience point of view is actually to be able to gather, you know, regularly and to get to know different artists. So I think it's actually possible for, it sounds strange to say this, but for spoken word artists to tour nationally and internationally, because slowly we think we might have been the first in Toronto to put our slam online, but there are many other spaces and not all of them are slams, which is great because it, I guess if you think of it as theater, it goes from creating like this kind of theater to this kind of theater. So this kind of poetry to this kind of a broader, you know, set of pieces of work. But the Guelph Poetry Slam, which is like a neighboring community a couple of hours east of Toronto, is putting on a slam. So for example, an artist who we're featuring, Ashley Hayes from the US, is joining us on Sunday, but like an artist could go to another slam and be able to share their work there. So I think on one hand that meets the goal of the artist being able to reach a broader audience, because local communities are still gathering with the option for something to be very global or virtual, but for some reason we really like getting to see our communities who we've already been gathering with, right? I know there is a very different model that I think Buddy Wakefield, a spoken word artist, put together with Ani DeFranco, and it's more of like a subscription service. So I think it's the model that I just suggested is modeling what we would do, because our platforms have moved online. Artists can move from platform to platform, and the audiences are overlapping to some degree for folks who have the time and interest, but also disparate. Whereas I think what that crew is trying to do, and I could find the name of it before we wrap up today, but I think in some ways, rather than recognizing that an artist would go here to here to here to here, and maybe all of those sites don't actually fully exist yet, it's trying to collectively pool an audience of folks who are interested in all sorts of artist spoken word work, and create a subscription service in some ways. So you get to pay 150 American dollars, could be, and then you get to attend shows weekly, I think, 90 minutes more intimately from an artist. I'll share the link in case I'm getting any of this wrong, having only looked at it and been excited and had to move on. But then you get to hear from, could be 20, 40 artists over these weeks until the fall, I think.
Well, I just got to say, I just had a light bulb moment while we were just discussing this, where, which just reveals how I was thinking about this in such analog terms. In our previous conversation, I was going to make the point that you can have your after party on a different digital platform. So for instance, day before yesterday, I participated in the Creating Futures. I put a link to that in our notes. A beautiful, gigantic conversation about the ethics of dance and performance in our field. That was, I think it was hosted by HowlRound. Then afterwards, they were like, so if y'all thought that 3-hour conversation wasn't juicy enough, come to the after party, which was just another Zoom session to keep talking about that stuff. And I was like, oh, I wish they had transferred us to Discord so we were on a different platform. That's what I like about, like, when I go to see Dimension 20, the live D&D game, you watch it on Twitch, and then you go to Discord and have a really like if Twitch wasn't nerdy enough, you go super nerdy on Discord. Is this touring? Is this a type of touring to take my performance to Nash's Northwest Art streaming platform and then produce it? Like, did I tour to Canada when I performed digitally with the Toronto Poetry Slam? Is that touring? Unmic yourselves.
Hell yeah. Check you out.
Definitely.
Us out.
Definitely.
I think one of the ways that I'm thinking about this is on one hand, like replicating what might be possible for people who have access to tour. And then we're also thinking about it using this time, this liminal space, as a bit of an equity measure. So, you know, we featured someone who was undocumented in the US, who we know is a fantastic poet and wouldn't have been able to cross the border to come here. We're also thinking about, because we currently have an inaccessible venue, unfortunately, which we'd love to change. And in the meantime, are going to be using our digital practices to make the venue accessible. Are there other artists who wouldn't be able to come to our venue who we can feature now? So I think in a way, for folks who can't use the same model of touring, which is like able-bodied and fast-paced and assumes you can be exposed to multiple environments, including sense, you know, and certain, like there's so many complexities to touring that virtual touring, like not only is perhaps necessary for a time being, but also probably, you know, this is obviously where I'm coming back to from the beginning, like a way of thinking about something that can be more accessible for others as well.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about it with accessibility too is just like, is not only multiple entry points, like different platforms, because those are still all on the internet and still all like not accessible if you don't have internet, is a thing that we're doing. So in Baltimore, a thing that we were trying to figure out was how to create what the virtual student matinee looked like, and which we decided was like which was an asynchronous event and that kind of thing that could happen over the course of a while. But we gave teachers 3 different options for their students, and they could and we gave them all 3. One was like a Vimeo link to the video. One was an audio only, like a radio play version of the play. But then we also made a analog version of the play that wasn't the script of the play. It was like a monologue, like a pieces and like allowing people to engage the themes of the play, but like in a packet. And then curriculum with like different kinds of potential activities, whatever, but like doing it so that actually people that never saw the play could still engage with the ideas. Students that had full access could do it. If some students had better bandwidth than others, like the audio version is much, much smaller and was able to be like downloaded first before you could listen to it. And so just trying to really, really open it up. And we got some really great feedback from teachers because they're really struggling to figure out, because they have like all this different access in the same classroom, sometimes in the same household. Like the household has internet, but they can't also, but like the sister needs to use the computer the whole day and is older. So like they don't have more than one computer. And so I think that that is just like that one piece, which is like students and which we know has access, but like, it makes me wonder a lot of what are some of these analog moments. What are the ways that we can that like the live experience can translate to not having to be synchronous, like can be like what is the asynchronous live experience?
Well, I love the idea of ending on the note of what are the asynchronous live experiences that we can help put out into the world. Ultimately, the script is the most amazing piece of technology. It's allowing us to replicate performances from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So I'm excited for more conversations in the future. Colleagues, thank you so much for your time. Just thank you just for the knowledge of the knowledge that you're sharing with each other in this disruptive way. You're modeling the future that we want to live in. So just thanks for joining. We'll be here next week. You're totally invited. Invite your friends. We'll be doing this again. Also, we're super chill. So I'm going to hit stopping on record, and then we're going to transition to our post 15 minutes of this is how we plan stuff. You're all welcome to be here if you want. It's boring. We're talking about making Facebook events and fighting Zoom. But you're totally invited to stay because we're non-hierarchical. Other than that, see you next week. Thanks for joining.